Welcome to Tiger Tracks, your home for the best of LSU athletics. And now, your hosts, Jordy Hultberg and Bill Frankes.
Hello, Tiger fans around the world. Welcome to Tiger Tracks. He is Bill Frankes. I am Jordy Hultberg. Since last we met, we've got a SEC champion on campus. We'll talk about that. We've got a number one versus number two matchup in baseball. We'll talk about that. We've got the number one recruiting class in men's college basketball right now. We'll talk about it. I mean, wow. Just keeps getting better and better.
Everything's going so well, Jordy. Of course, Chuck Winstead of the men's golf team won the SEC championship last weekend in Georgia. First SEC title for LSU in men's golf since 1987 when David Toms was a sophomore. So just a huge victory for Coach Winstead and his guys, and they're very excited, looking forward to NCAA play.
We'll talk with Chuck here on the show. We'll also have a recap of LSU spring football game where now it's time to get ready for the fall. The season not that far away, and boy, I wish I could have been a part of this. I'm really looking forward to seeing it. A reunion of the Press Maravich, Pete Maravich era of LSU basketball.
Yeah, it's really neat, Jordy. The players, the former players organized a reunion of all the guys who played in that Press Maravich, Pete Maravich era for LSU basketball. They had the reunion just last Friday at Mike Anderson's restaurant here in Baton Rouge. It was a great event, and they shared a lot of memories about the legend Pistol Pete. The
greatest of all time. That and much, much more coming your way. This is Tiger Tracks here on CST, back with Chuck Winstead, the head coach of the number one LSU SEC championship golf team. Stay with us. Welcome back to Tiger Tracks here on CST alongside Bill Frankes. I am Jordy Hultberg. Well, we love talking about champions. And yes, the LSU men's golf team just recently became the SEC champions. Now in his 10th season, the head coach of the Tigers, Chuck Winstead, joins us. And we love champions. Congratulations. What a great accomplishment. Well done.
Thanks, Jordy. Appreciate that.
And it was, I've always said that, they say the Masters starts on the back nine on Sunday. And that's kind of how it started with you guys. You came from back and got the lead, so that's terrific. Explain it to us.
Yeah, sure. The guys, we played well the first two rounds. We're 3 shots out of the lead heading to the last round. And that front nine, we really didn't have, I guess, the momentum or feel like we were catching them.
Okay.
In fact, we fell probably 5 shots behind at the turn. But the guys just kept plugging away. And in that situation, it's probably hard, the viewers wouldn't know, but the SEC championship, I mean, there's some partisan parents and crowd out there. And you could certainly feel in the middle of the back nine, Alabama started to slip.
Okay.
But the head coach at Vanderbilt was the assistant coach at Alabama. So, we were playing with Vandy in Alabama. So Vandy started making some birdies, create a little separation, but our guys hung in there. Stuart Jolly shot on 15, and Zach Wright and Stuart both birdied 17. That shot by Stuart on 15 was
Explain it to
199 yards into a green with water on the left, two deep bunkers both sides, back left pin. The wind was into and out of the right. Really took a club that if he hit perfectly would reach the hole because it was a back pin. If it was too much, it'd be over the green, be tough.
Okay.
Hit as good a golf shot as could be struck. Perfect draw, 4-iron, and went right in the hole for eagle. And it was unbelievable. At that time, we were trailing, and it just kind of, it was one of those type shots, in any sport, that you're like, this may change. This outcome may change right here. And, behind that green is the 16th tee. My assistant Garrett Runyon and Eric Ricard, who were playing in front of Stewart, they threw their hands up. Stewart went crazy. It was a really cool moment.
I want to know what the reserve Chuck Winstead did. A little fist pump?
It was pretty cool. I'll give you that.
You'll give me that.
Cool.
Okay, very good.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
Well, Chuck, this has to mean, of course, so much to you and to all those who love LSU golf. The program has such great history, and to win the SEC title, talk about what it means from a historical significance and what it means to your program now.
Well, Bill, it does mean a lot. When we started 10 years ago, the program wasn't in great shape. We were, close to 90th in the country, and the golf program had just fallen on some hard times. There's so many, no program is a one-man show, and there's so many people that have played a part really in turning this around, from alumni to past players to the administration to our supporters. And there are a lot of people out there that truly care about, and LSU golf did have great history, 15 SEC championships. Now, that was before I was alive, but it was great. So in any event, it's nice when our guys, I'm happy for our guys, obviously. I'm also happy for all of those people that have played a role in turning this program around.
Did David Toms tell you it's about time? Because I think he was a sophomore back in '87, the last time LSU won one.
Well, DT's been a large part of helping us. I saw him yesterday down at the Zurich. He obviously texted me right away and very happy.
That's terrific.
So what happens next? There are even bigger goals ahead.
Well, I don't know if they're bigger, but they're different. I understand what you mean. The NCAA championship and certainly last year's run should give this group a sense of feeling that they can accomplish something big. Making it to the Final Four last year, unfortunately losing in the semifinals, but finishing third in the country. We've got 3 of those players coming back. We've replaced Curtis Thompson and Smiley Kaufman with 2 sophomores, Brandon Pierce and Eric Ricard. And what's next truly is the regional selection show, which will be May 4th on the Golf Channel. We'll find out our seating location and we'll be ready to go.
All right, let's take a quick time out here. We'll come back with more on that. May 4th, that seems like a long time before you play again. We'll talk about that and much more with Chuck Winstead here on Tiger Track. Stay with us. Welcome back to Tiger Tracks. We continue our conversation with Chuck Winstead in his 10th season, the SEC Men's Championship team from the SEC. Coach, you talked a lot about some veterans and a mixture of some youth and how that's all played together. Why don't you talk about some of your team this year?
Sure. Well, Stuart Jolly, Ben Taylor, and Zach Wright were all part of that team last year that made it to the semifinals. Stuart Jolly and Ben Taylor, both seniors, both have played for the Palmer Cup, one for Europe and one for the United States. So they've had some nice experience and some nice success. Zach Wright, pound for pound, probably hits it as far as you do, Jordy. I mean, he kills it. But he's a tremendous junior out of Arizona and really probably been our most consistent player throughout the year. Probably the 2 members of the team that have kind of come on and helped us continue to play well are Brandon Pierce from the North Shore and Eric Ricard from Shreveport, which is really cool to have some Louisiana golfers, kind of coming into the program and doing well. And those 2 sophomores have done tremendous. I mean, Brandon Pierce has led our team in scoring average through the spring. And a great story. Last year in the spring he had a stress fracture in his back. went for 4 months where he couldn't touch a golf club.
Wow.
Which is tough for anybody
Yes,
in your sport. And worked so hard to get back to this point, and then his success this spring has been tremendous.
I'm going to ask you a question. I think it's funny. I would see how, if you could take 4 players, all right, you could have 1 drive it, 1 hit the fairway shot, 2 come out of the bunker, 3 out of the bunker, and 4 putt. Give me those players.
Well, I'd have Zach Wright hit the drive.
Okay.
I'd have Stuart Jolly hit the approach, but I wouldn't have him hit it in the bunker.
I understand, but if he did.
All right, so if he did hit it in the bunker, then I guess I'd go with Brandon Pierce. He'd hit the bunker shot for
Okay.
us. And then I'd let Eric Ricard tap it in.
There you go. Okay.
And Chuck, the SEC tournament was one of 4 wins you've had this season, 4 victories. So this is a process that began in the fall, and your team has played consistently well since the fall.
Yeah, we've had a nice year. The 4 wins, we won the Golf Week Challenge in Iowa. We won our home event at University Club, the David Toms. Had a win in Naples over Vanderbilt. And that was kind of a crucial kind of win because coming down the stretch, it was us and Vandy, and we kind of eked it out. And that plays a role when you're heading up head-to-head again later in the year. We finished second at the Floridian, which is a great event, probably a national championship type field, but we clipped South Carolina by a shot. And those were the 2 teams that finished second, South Carolina and Vanderbilt. So we have had a nice year. The guys, hopefully, our goal, as it always is, we got to keep improving. That's our next step. We got to keep improving so that we can be ready for NCAA regionals.
What keeps improving is LSU's recognition on the PGA Tour. It used to be back in the day, it was only David Tom, and what a great representative he was. But now we've got several other players, and that's you're very humble, but that shows how much work you've put into it and how your players keep improving.
Well, thank you. I mean, it shows we got some great talent that's coming here now, and those guys have worked really hard, and they've earned the right to be out there. John Peterson and Andrew Loop and Curtis Thompson, those 3 are going to join DT down at the Zurich Classic this week. It's great to have 4 guys in the field. Smiley Kaufman's having an unbelievable run on the web.com tours, finished 4th 2 of the last 3 or 4 events. So, yeah, I'm proud of the fact that LSU golf is growing in stature and hopefully making our fans proud.
A lot more purple shirts on there on Sundays, man. I like that. I like that.
Cool. That's cool.
Chuck, NCAA regionals coming up. Give us an idea of the format, and then if you advance past the regional, where the national championship is.
Well, there's 6 sites in NCAA men's golf play that are regional play, and they're all over the country. And it's a shame that when you play all year long, you don't earn the right to always host at home like some sports do. But it is what it is. And we'll travel to one of 6 sites. It could be Seattle, Washington. It could be Connecticut. Probably will.
We love Seattle.
Yeah. But in any event, we'll play in that. There's 12 or 13 teams per region. You have to finish top 5 to advance. It always comes down to a shot or 2. I mean, you get the best shot out of everybody, as it should be. And then, if you can make it through regionals, then we'll play the NCAA championship. This year it'll be, instead of Prairie Dunes in Kansas like it was last year, this year it'll be in Florida.
Great. Well, congratulations. Well done, and keep improving day after day. Have fun in New Orleans at the Zurich if you get a chance to go, and we appreciate the time.
Thanks, George.
That is Chuck Winstead, the SEC Men's Championship golf coach. We'll take a timeout. We'll come back with more here on Tiger Tracks on CST.
Tiger Tracks on CST is being brought to you by Capital One Bank, the official bank of all things Louisiana, and by Louisiana Propane Dealers. Get up to $1,200 in rebates on propane accessories. Find out how at louisianapropane.com.
Welcome back to Tiger Tracks here on CST. Two good things. One, the spring football game avoided the rain. I don't know how they did that and got the game in. Number two, no one got hurt. Other than that, that's all I care about.
Yeah, absolutely. And it also appears, Jordy, as if the Tigers are making strides, of course, on offense. Offensive line is going to be so dominant this year with the return of Vidal Alexander and Gerald Hawkins. They'll be the real anchors. Ethan Posick back at center. Looking forward to watching those guys play. The defense could be lights out as well. Garrett Walford files this report on LSU spring football.
Hey, fighting Tigers, fight all the way. Hey, fighting Tigers, win the game today. You've got the know-how, you're doing fine. Hammer balls, you hit the wall and smash it through the line. You gotta go for a touchdown, run up the score. Make Mike the Tiger stand up and roar. Give it all your might to fight tonight. Keep it going, you victory for LSU. Hey, fighting Tigers, fight all the way. Hey, fighting Tigers, win the game today. You've got the know-how, you're doing fine. Hammer balls, you hit the wall and smash it through the line. You gotta go for a touchdown, run up the score. Make Mike the Tiger stand up and roar. Give it all your might to fight tonight. Keep it going, you victory for LSU.
In preparing for the 123rd season of Fightin' Tiger football, the National Elk Club spring game took place April 18th in Baton Rouge. Strong quarterback play ruled the day, and Anthony Jennings completed 13 of 20 passes for 242 yards and 2 touchdowns. The junior from Georgia enters year 3 with 13 starts under his belt and a close relationship with the wide receivers. Sophomore signal caller Brandon Harris was also sharp, going 11 of 17 for 178 yards passing and 2 touchdowns. LSU wideout Traven Doral led all receivers with 127 total yards and 2 touchdowns as the redshirt junior enjoyed the game's longest play, combining with Jennings on a 70-yard catch towards the south end zone. LSU threw numerous passes to the tight ends and saw big gains along the sidelines during the final scrimmage of the spring. At tailback, Leonard Fournette led all rushers with 42 yards on 8 carries. The All-SEC freshman team selection bullied his way in between the tackles and set the Tigers up for several scoring plays. Fellow sophomore Darrell Williams rushed for 40 yards and scored on a 5-yard touchdown later in the second quarter for the white team. Freshman back David Ducray found the end zone on the game's final play, bruising his way past several defenders, finding pay dirt. Another rookie made some noise as freshman signal caller Justin McMillan came out firing, hitting tight end Deshaun Smith on a 50-yard touchdown pass to start the second half. A Texas native, McMillan finished 3 for 3 for 55 yards. LSU will open the 2015 season on September 5th against McNeese State in Tiger Stadium. For more information, go to lsutix.net. Reporting for Tiger Tracks, I'm Garrett Walford.
Thank you very much. So while the spring is over, football players get to relax a little bit. Coaches, it's recruiting time. It's Tiger Tour time. It's the LSU Assistant Football Coaches Tour time. They made a stop in Monroe to start things off to show how important that area of this state is to them. Brilliant move.
Yeah,
Brilliant.
exactly. And those new coaches certainly are making a big impact upon recruiting. Kevin Steele, Ed Orgeron, and Tony Ball, the new wide receiver coach. Those guys can make a huge impact on the field and in recruiting.
If they can get a Pistol Pete in football like in basketball, that's what I'm talking about. A reunion when we return.
Tiger Tracks on CST is being brought to you by Capital One Bank, the official bank of all things Louisiana, and by Louisiana Propane Dealers. Get up to $1,200 in rebates on propane accessories. Find out how at louisianapropane.com.
Can't wait to see this coming up next on Tiger Tracks, the greatest college basketball player I've ever seen, Pistol Pete. A reunion was held for his dad and Pete with all the players that played in that era.
Exactly. It was held at Mike Anderson's restaurant here in Baton Rouge, and all of Pete's teammates got together and shared memories about that time in LSU basketball, the mid-'60s through the early '70s, when Pistol Pete just really elevated LSU basketball on a national stage. Let's take a look. Garrett Walver was there. He files this report.
Oh, this has been great. We've been talking about this for the last several years, Randy and Jeff Tribbett and myself, and finally got a chance to. We said, okay, let's go ahead and do it because we're not getting any younger, and the response has been fantastic. And we figure we might get 10, 11 guys. To get 25, 30 people to show up is beyond our expectations. It's great seeing these guys.
I came down to LSU the same year that Pete did, and Pete and I not the first year, but the next 3 years, Pete and I were roommates. And so I was one of the starting guards with Pete, and we were able to really make basketball a little bit of something in a wonderful football school. And with Pete and his abilities and what he did, we were really able to have a wonderful time. It was probably the best experience of my life.
It's been like a time warp. I mean, it seems like we were on campus just yesterday, and all of a sudden now we got everybody talking about applying for Social Security. So it's I saw Pete play at the Olympic camp in Indianapolis. I was a senior in high school, and it was one of the most amazing performances I'd ever seen. And then when LSU recruited me, one of the things I sorted out was that if I never play a game, I'm going to have the best seat in the house to watch Pistol Pete. And as things went, I ended up starting every game my sophomore year when Pete was a senior. We had a great team, and just an honor to have played with somebody as great as Pete was. I mean, every game was a new experience.
Well, I remember I was a year ahead of Pete in school, so when Coach Maravich was signed, they said he's bringing his hotshot son with him, and all of us, kind of, okay. We got some of the upperclassmen to play against him, and after a couple games, we're going, this guy's pretty good. He did stuff with the basketball that most of us probably never even thought about doing, and then some of it, I know coming from my high school, if we did something fancy, it better work or you're going to be sitting on the sidelines. And, Pete would just kind of do things, and we learned a lot from him, though, over the 2 or 3 years we played with him.
All I can say is if you talk about Michael Jordan, Pete Maravich, people like that, they are the quintessential, their unconscious competence. You can pull off the greatest play, the most incredible result, and then if you ask them on the spot, how'd you do that? They don't know. I mean, they're that good. He not only had the great LSU career, but then he's one of the top 50 all-time NBA players. And so, I mean, there's an awful lot to be proud of here.
When practice started, I went to probably more practice than anybody around in to watch this because I was a basketball nut when I was growing up. And he was really something. I think Brad and them got an up-close look with his blind passes when he'd hit them in the face with a ball and all that. In those days, the media, meaning mostly me, was the only one that covered from Baton Rouge on the road, would fly with a team plane to wherever they were going. And when we went to Gainesville, we flew into Jacksonville by jet, and Press and Jay and I drove cars. I said, I don't imagine too many coaches allow that nowadays.
We left Baton Rouge. We were going to Starksville, Mississippi. Got over Macomb, and I lost an engine. I turned around and came back and landed in Baton Rouge, and Press come running up there to tell me, buddy, that's the fastest trip I've ever made to Mississippi State. I said, sir, we're in Baton Rouge. He went ape because he didn't know it, and the players too.
When we got on the road, it was, like you go to different places and they have on the board, welcome Pistol Pete and his sideshow. And so playing in front of full house is a heck of a lot more fun, whether they're for you or against you. And there's few places they were against us, but then toward the end of the game, because Pete was doing what he was doing, then they'd start getting for us.
I mean, he was really ahead of his time. Doing the things that he did back then, people called him showboat and hot dog, and I think it really hurt him, his pride in a way and his personality. and he really became a recluse. He didn't want to go out because of the problems that the publicity caused him. But we always stayed close, even when we got to the pros. When he'd come through Dallas, when we lived in Dallas, we got together, and he'd always go out with my wife and I, and he was the Pete that we knew and loved when we went to college. So he was a great guy. We miss him dearly, obviously, but we always got together great, and he always remembered where he came from when he was around us.
The legend of Pistol Pete lives on. Now, this is where I get, we're friends and all. So, number 1 versus number 2, LSU, Texas A&M Thursday. Can I get a couple tickets from you?
We can arrange something.
Can you arrange something?
Yeah,
What? It's going to be a regional-like atmosphere.
I think it really will be. In fact, Coach Maneri said that earlier in the week. He's expecting a regional or super regional type of atmosphere. Now, he did point out there will be bigger games down the line, but for right now, in the regular season, can't get much bigger than this. Number 1 versus number 2. Game 1 is tomorrow night at 6:30. Game 2 Friday at 7, and we'll finish up on Saturday at 1 o'clock. Awesome. LSU versus Texas A&M. First time the Aggies have been in Baton Rouge since they joined the SEC.
And it just shows me how good this club is to be able to focus in a 6-0 win over Tulane. A one-hitter, first time in the new Alec box that happened, and about 9 pictures to the bump.
Exactly.
Wow.
And they all threw the ball so well.
Yeah.
Some guys who maybe have struggled early looked very sharp last night.
He's Bill. I'm Jordy. Thanks so much for watching. We'll see you next week here on Tiger Tracks.